Mayor Frank Jackson and the City of Cleveland are committed to keeping your neighborhood clean and green through the use of the city-issued trash and recycling carts. It's safe, convenient, and mandatory. For more information, contact the Cleveland Division of Waste Collection at 216-664-3717.
I've asked you to come today because we should be delivering to council today and for introduction on Monday, ordinance that will allow us to have a $100 million bond for the investment in Cleveland, and it's pretty much about Cleveland's future. Now, in the past, we've invested quite a bit of money, capital dollars, in the city of Cleveland to the tune of over $450 million since I've been mayor. Just to outline where the areas the money went to: over $60 million to demolition, parks and recreation over $50 million, public safety over $24 million, roads and bridges over $290 million, and sustainable projects that are really associated with roads and bridges over $20 million. Now, the $100 million bond issuance that we're introducing to council on Monday will have four components. The first is a $35 million roads and bridge bond. That is about double of what we normally do on an annual basis. And it's significant because it really leverages quite a bit of money. When we do issue one road replacement, rebuilding of the roads on the issue ones, we put in 20%, the state puts in 80%. So you're leveraging quite a bit of money. On the NOACA, we've been working with them last year, and we intend to work with them this year. It's the same formula. We put up 20%, they put up 80%. And then NOACA, again, is very important because they cover roads that are not eligible for state funding, but they're too large for resurfacing dollars. So they fall in between, and they usually wind up being the worst roads because there's no money for them. And this gives us the ability to reconstruct and repair those roads. And we're working with the council leadership on residential resurfacing dollars and adding an additional $2 million to that, from $4.4 to $6.4 million. The second area that we're proposing is a $20 million investment in the upgrade of our city fleet. We have an aging fleet, aging vehicles, aging equipment, and sometimes many of these vehicles stay in repair longer than they're out on the road and being productive. So we're investing $20 million to upgrade our fleet in waste collection, snow removal, public safety, fire, EMS, police vehicles, and that equipment that you need to maintain vacant lots, parks, cemeteries, those kinds of things. The third area is a $20 million investment in the upgrade of facilities. It's just like anything, it needs investment if we're going to maintain it at a quality level. And so we're investing in our facilities and actually creating new facilities. Example is a new kennel, city kennel. We're repairing Willard Garage, investing in new rec centers and parks and playgrounds, as well as repair and renovation of rec centers, parks, and playgrounds. And even though it's not a facility, the police cameras fall within this category. So we'll be using some of these dollars for that. Now, most recently, not in this $100 million, but in that $450 million that I talked about, we are constructing a new fire station, a new 3rd district, and we've made significant investments in the repair and upgrade of police stations, fire stations, recreation centers, and parks and playgrounds. Now, these previous investments have resulted in positive private investments taking place in many of our city neighborhoods. To to go back a little bit, out of that $450 million, I would say 90% of that is not in the central business district. So over 90% of that $450 million is not in the central business district, which means it's not downtown, is in the neighborhoods of the city of Cleveland. And so when we've done that, we've had significant private investment to go along with that in some neighborhoods. But for other neighborhoods, in spite of the public investments that we make, we have the private investment has lagged significantly. Example, if we do something downtown, you might get a 8-to-1 return. You do something in a neighborhood that is attractive to private investment, you might get a 5-to-1 return. You do something in other neighborhoods that have more challenges and under greater stress, you're lucky if you get anything or 50 cents on a return. So it's a very negative return in some areas. And that is because of that, these areas have not progressed in a way that we would like them to progress. And they're not been able to move ahead in a way that other parts of the city and other neighborhoods of the city have progressed. Now, the interesting part about this is that these neighborhoods, even though they have the greatest challenges, they also provide the greatest opportunity. And I want you to think of this not as a panacea, because there's no panacea silver bullet, but this is just one part of what we're attempting to do to rebuild Cleveland, the quality of life, create the prosperity, and position Cleveland in the region in a way that it will add value to this region and this city. And example is there's a young man at Cleveland State who is doing some research, and he has come up with an approach that I happen to agree with. It really affirms many of the things that we're doing. And he says we have consumer neighborhoods that are doing quite well in the city of Cleveland. And people are consuming the quality of life there. They're consuming the lifestyle there. But they're not producer neighborhoods. And they're not producer neighborhoods, meaning that if we just rely on consumer neighborhoods, then Cleveland cannot sustain itself or grow into the future. We have to create producer neighborhoods that produce goods and services that are consumed, not just in Cleveland, but this region, and fit into a global economy. That opportunity exists in neighborhoods that are most problematic and have the most challenges. They have the largest amount of vacant land, easier to assemble. They have less environmental problems in most cases. And they have the ability to really jettison Cleveland in this region into the future. So we want to invest in those neighborhoods. And we want to bring the quality of life, the standard of living of those neighborhoods up to other neighborhoods that are doing well, and we want to use those neighborhoods to promote the best interests of the city in terms of economic growth and in this region in terms of economic growth. Now, we've already invested, you can't do that just at brick and mortar, so you have to invest in people, and we are doing that through our education reform. We're doing it with the community benefits to ensure that as dollars are spent in Cleveland, that the people of Cleveland, contractors, suppliers of goods and services, and people are employed as we move ahead. So it is a holistic approach. To that end, the fourth component, and to me the most interesting part of this $100 million, is a $25 million bond issuance for neighborhood development. Now, with this $25 million, we'll be investing this in areas that are most problematic in order to encourage and leverage higher private investment to fit in with what I just described to you as the strategy of moving Cleveland into the future and ensuring that everyone has an opportunity to participate in quality of life and standard of living. And with this, we believe this $25 million will help stimulate growth and promote private investment in the city's neighborhood that have the greatest challenges to private investment. And I'm looking forward to working with our private sector partners on this so that we can really put together something that is institutionalized as to how we behave as we invest publicly and privately in the city of Cleveland, in the neighborhoods of the city of Cleveland. And to that end, we will be working with the staff of the lenders and our staff at the city to develop a new agreement on community, under the community, CRA? Community Reinvestment Act, and we'll work to develop new agreements so that will fall in line with this investment strategy. And again, I want to thank all the people who are here with me today and their commitment to the city of Cleveland, because we cannot do this alone. This is not a panacea. This is one component of a broader strategy that we're implementing to ensure Cleveland's future. So with that, I'd like to introduce Ms. Mooney, the CEO of KeyCorp.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do think it is exciting to have the opportunity. The mayor and his administration did reach out to all of us and say, as we think about imagining this future for Cleveland, how do we collaborate? How do we prioritize, and what is it we do to really bring this opportunity to life? So we're here in support of the mayor's vision, because I think it is critical to our community that we move beyond the central core of our city, and that our neighborhoods get the share of support and the range of investment that we're making in other parts of Cleveland and other opportunities in Cleveland, because indeed the rising tide for our area and our region will be the ability to support all its citizens and all its neighborhoods. So I would tell you we're proud to be here to support this, and I think this is part of what will make this city we call great, and that we're all proud to call home even better in the future. So with that, we appreciate the mayor's leadership in this regard, as well as his willingness to engage us in a constructive dialogue on how to leverage public and private partnership. Thank you.
Any questions? Yes.
I'm certainly glad to hear things going into the neighborhood and the investment. But coming around and seeing some of the people in community development, will that affect some of the CDCs, or will you still be able to help them help the neighborhoods too?
Well, as you know, Mr. Wade, whenever we spend public dollars, we just can't spend it.
Right.
And many times what we do is use the local nonprofits, the CDCs, as the vehicle for spending those dollars. And many times, as we develop the criteria as to how to spend the $25 million that we're right, and leveraging that with the private sector, Chief Ripka, the Chief of Regional Development, we will be, one of those criteria will be whether or not there's a strong CDC that has a development plan for that area. So that's where you go first. It's the lowest hanging fruit. But for us, it's very difficult to spend certain kinds of money without having the CDC to have that money go through, and then they help to develop the community plan that's associated with the expenditure of that money.
Well, do you have any specific neighborhoods you're talking about?
Well, that's part of what we'll do. We're not targeting specific neighborhoods. We're targeting conditions of a neighborhood that will look at the condition of that neighborhood and the opportunity that neighborhood brings to have the greatest return on the investment, and where the private sector will be, at least in the short term initially, more willing to leverage their private dollars with. So there's not but we are developing a criteria that will define how we will spend what will, I guess, initiate the spending of money, and then there are categories in which we'll spend it in. So it could be anywhere from new home construction, renovation, it could be for commercial, retail, it could be for industrial, it could be for site assembly, it could be for all these kind of things that you need to do in order to encourage private investment in those areas. But it's no specific neighborhood. It's more about the condition and the opportunity.
You expect the city council to approve of this proposal?
Well, that's the process. And you know, I'm not trying to be, you know, flippant about it, but it is the process, and I am introducing it for their approval. Now, they will, you know, have their input, and they appropriate money, and they pass legislation. So we are, that's why I'm saying that we are taking the ordinance over today for introduction on Monday, and they will, I think Monday is their last session for the year, and then they will deliberate when they come back, and we, if successful, then I think there's about a 45-day layover when you do these capital bonds. Our anticipation is to have, we would like to have something ready to go by the second quarter, beginning of the second quarter.
How will you fund this? What the backing?
Well, my finance director will, because you know you have the cap on the unrestricted side of the property tax, which will not be able to support this level. So she'll probably have some other tools that she'll use. But
Use casino market, for example?
she'll tell me which is the best tool to use. We have, as you know, we have bond councils, and their job is to not only tell us what is appropriate for the different categories, but to give us some suggestions as to how to do it so that it can be rated high and the interests are low.
Can I ask them about,
Yes.
what role they expect to play, and what kind of increasing role you expect to play? Things you're not doing now that you're going to do in the future with this new investment?
I will tell you that it's an opportunity for us, and what you have here is an array of us who are very active in the community, and our lenders who are specifically dedicated to the reinvestment in our communities. And what I think the mayor has done is done an early outreach, and I like your notion that we're looking for the challenges and the opportunities. We do this as a matter of course. We support our neighborhoods, we support our cities, and how do we best align? So this is going to be a very collaborative effort to bring it to life. And there's a lot of expertise in this room, in addition to such things as the CDCs and many good organizations and entities. So I think it's going to be the power of our collective thinking on where are the challenges, how to prioritize, how to best leverage this public investment paired with some of the greatest opportunities. So the path is not yet clear, but the vision is compelling, and we're here in preparation to support to bring it to a meaningful
And
end.
if I can add to that, that is why we're asking the financial institutions to work with our staff to develop the new CRA agreements. That will kind of help shape that what you're talking about.
And we've had those for years.
Right.
So this is just
well, no, because those that we're currently under and we've had in the past may not be relevant to today's needs. And so the new CRA agreements will help to define the roles and things like that. And I also want to mention that this is not in lieu of any money that we currently do for neighborhood development. This is in addition to.
Might this mean the banks will be investing in things they haven't invested in the past in the city?
CRA.
I think the mayor said it well when he said, you know, the environment and the landscape is changing. What would have been relevant 10 years ago might be different needs now. So as a concept, I think we've always looked at how we can support the city and the neighborhoods. I think the difference is we will find perhaps different priorities in 2014 and 2015, what it takes to take this city to the next level. But conceptually, this is consistent with how we've worked with the city for many years, but it's a recognition that the landscape and the times are different.
I guess maybe it's just me that I think, I'm sitting here thinking the council should, it's benefiting their area, their wards, especially with the streets. I mean, they catch it with the potholes, and I think if you can resurface some of those bad areas, and it should be a win-win situation.
You want to testify for us? Okay. I'm going to take that testimony. You can even editorialize on it. You know.
Where did you lose a tire?
Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes.
There's a hope that some of these improvements in neighborhoods will be made before the 2016 convention, RNC.
For this?
Right.
No, that's not the focus of this, because it is not a. The RNC has some challenges we have to deal with, but what's in here is not related to that at all. We would be doing. Infrastructure is not a major issue for the RNC. There are some projects in some stage of completion that need to be completed. There are dollars that have to be raised to, you know, fill out the obligation. There's some coordination between different entities that have to happen, but this has nothing to do with RNC.
This is in addition to your typical capital improvements program, the annual capital improvements program?
No, this will be our 2015 request. Normally, we would have, Ken, 35 million, and that 35 million would include everything that I mentioned except for the neighborhood development bonds. It wouldn't include that, but it would include some roads and bridges, facilities, repair, and other kinds of capital needs and vehicles and things. What this does, when we finish with these example with the vehicles, we will have a condition of our vehicles will be at a level that just proper maintenance will allow us not to have to spend large amounts on vehicles going forward. The same thing with roads and bridges. As we look at taking the worst first and doing an objective look at which the conditions of our roads and prioritizing them first, this gives us the capital dollars to get a pretty good start on that. The council president talks about all the time a 20-year program to bring all of our roads up to a certain level. And so we're working with him to how do we identify that, and how do we have annual investments to reach that goal in 20 years, those kinds of things.
So you're going to spend this $100 million all in 2015?
We'll allocate it all. Give you an example. If you have an issue one, a major state road, the design may be in 2015, but the actual road, well, so this money will probably last for 2 or 3 years in terms of what you see happening.
Then you expect to go back to the typical $35 million a year after?
Well, we'll analyze that. We'll analyze it. I do know that this will relieve us of, because if you spend a small amount each year on something, then you have to keep doing that amount every year and sometimes increase it. This will give us a head start in many areas where if we do go back to a smaller bond issuance in 2016, we can better concentrate it in certain areas and get more done rather than just spreading it all out. Okay.